Well, hello, Dan here, 22nd of December 2024. Doesn't time fly? So I'm actually down my local woods, so a different location to where I normally make my YouTube videos, but I'd like to talk about a few things today in this video. So I've come down here because I used to sort of hang around these woods when I was a teenager with my mates. I used to come down here on my bike, etc. We used to do jumps and just you know, go about the woods like a lot of young people do. Some great memories from down here, so I find it quite a reflective place to make videos from, even though, well, yes, I think I did make a video down here actually a few years ago. These are cherry trees, wild cherries, and I have actually picked wild cherries down here, and very nice they were too. That was probably a few years ago now that I made that video. So I'm entering my 10th year of making YouTube videos. The time really has flown by, and feeling a little bit reflective. So looking at this wood here, it's interesting when I see it this time of year when the trees are dormant, etc., and to just think that it's not going to be that long now really until these leaf out, until they put some flowers out, then they put some nice buds out, etc. You understand what I'm talking about, and will be some really nice crops. So a little bit of similar to what it will be like in my own garden. So I've not put up a YouTube video now probably for about 5 or 6 weeks. Haven't had too much to show, and I didn't want to just start putting out content really where there wasn't too much to show. Many of you have seen the things I've done over the years, and a lot of it would have just been sort of more duplicated content, so I've resisted doing that. Now, so what have I been up to in the last year? So we're going further into the woods now to get into more subjects of this video. I often wonder what stories these oak trees up here could tell us if they could speak. Makes me think of, like, you know, Treebeard from the Lord of the Rings, etc. Very interesting. So let's just stop here, whoops, and we'll set the camera up, and this nice little point here to carry on. So the tree here has grown a little seat for me to sit on. So there we are now. So many of you may be aware that I had an inguinal hernia repair done last year. Had it done actually on the 11th of December 2023, so just over a year ago now. Now the repair actually went very well, better than I actually expected. So over the last few years I've sort of changed up how I do some certain things in my life. So I've got my own little gardening business. I do sort of a bit of maintenance gardening for people, and that's been very much a sort of thing I've focused on over the last 10 years or so. It's been very good. I originally started off actually, well, amongst many other jobs as well, as a care assistant, which I did from my early 20s onwards really, and we'll come back to that. But what I did about 10 or so years ago was I really got into gardening. It was around the time I started my YouTube channel. Of course I was doing gardening the whole way along really. Both sides of my family are very much into gardening, but I made a little business out of it. So I enjoyed it. Nothing special, just me and a few tools, but you know, it's a good, nice little business to do, quite fulfilling in terms of, you know, making a difference to people's gardens, etc. It was a good thing. But I did quite a lot of it, and quite a lot of gardening in my own time as well. In fact, what I did was I really focused very much on gardening, and it was a big focus of my life, no complaints there. But it got to the stage where I needed to do some other things. Now, somewhere along the line, I managed to acquire myself an inguinal hernia, some of which was probably genetic, some of which probably wasn't helped by lots of heavy lifting, etc., etc. But anyway, a little bump appeared in my groin, and I did the classic bloke thing of ignoring it and hoping it went away. Unsurprisingly, it didn't. I went to the doctors, and the doctor said, you've got an inguinal hernia, and there we are. Had to have it repaired. So there we go. So quite an interesting sort of period of time, really, because I've always been sort of physically fit, etc., etc., and you know, to find out that that was there was a little bit, oh blimey me, really? There we go. Not unsurprising, considering both my grandfathers had inguinal hernias. There you go. So I'll say a lot of that was genetic. So what else have I done along the way? Well, I actually started learning the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, it was about 2 years ago I started learning that sport, and it's been quite an interesting experience for me. I just looked it up on the internet, like we do now, where there was a potentially a local club, and I turned up at the local club, you know, had a go at it, was completely hopeless at it when I started, which I suspect most people are. Not particularly great at it now, to be honest, 2 years later, but it's certainly become an interest for me. So this is when it got interesting. So still had that bump in my groin. I don't even know when it appeared, to be honest. Really, I'm not recommending anyone sit on an inguinal hernia or anything like that. You know, it's probably a good idea if you've got a bump like that to go to the doctors and get it checked out. Anyway, so turned up there, started training. No problem, didn't really get any problems from the hernia. Anyway, then the stage comes, I was about to enter a tournament, and I thought maybe I better get that lump or bump checked out. Okay, there we go, went to the doctor's, confirmation, yeah, you've got an inguinal hernia, which I strongly suspected due to the genetic history of them in my family, etc. So that's what happened. So anyway, had to get it sorted. So the doctor said, yep, whatever, this, that and the other. So there we are, inguinal hernia operation, and that was it. So shelved the training for 4 months, something like that. So I had about, yeah, so I had to shelve it, and then had to wait for the recovery, etc. So then started training again. No problem, because of how apparently the surgery's improved now. The surgeon, he put no restrictions on me, which was it was very good of him indeed to do that, because there we are. So whilst I was waiting to recover, etc., waiting for the operation, I'm thinking, well, am I going to be able to go back into gardening as a job? And I was starting to get a little bit fed up of you know, hardcore gardening 5 or 6 days every week. Sometimes I was thinking, you know, maybe try something else for a bit. Anyway, so what I did was I actually applied for a job in a care home, because I had the care experience from the past. Overall, I enjoyed working in care before. Very hard job, but then every job is hard, isn't it, in its own ways. It just depends which hard a job gives you. You understand what I mean? You know, if you're working in an office, maybe you're not going to get physically hard labour, but it might be hard mentally in other ways, dealing with certain people, policies, procedures. You understand, I'm sure you've got your own joys of your own job, whatever it is you do. Anyway, so I got an interview and I got the job. There we are, very interesting. I told them I was waiting for a hernia repair, so there we go. Had to wait till after the operation before I started. They said, yeah, okay, fine. So after the operation, I went into that. Wasn't doing any gardening at that time. It was the middle of last winter as well. And yeah, so went in to do care, did a dementia care home, Alzheimer's, dementia, etc., etc. So I went and worked there. So worked there, was doing like 24 hours a week initially, I think, and then it was to 36 hours a week, something like that, you know, 24 hours a week in the care home. Care is certainly not the best paid job, and with the cost of everything nowadays, I don't need to talk about that. This is not the place to talk about that, but I'm sure you know, because you are paying bills as well. So up my hours a little bit to 36 hours a week. There we are. So anyway, the gardening bug came back. So what I did, and also the fact that, you know, I recovered better than I thought I was going to be, or I was going to recover after the operation. So there we go. So I went back into gardening, and what I'm actually doing now is a bit of gardening and a bit of care work. And actually it's been quite refreshing, to be honest, to do a little bit of both. You know, sometimes they say, you know, look at that lovely old oak tree. Sometimes it can be a bit much to just do one thing at a time. Some people say it's good to just do one thing because then you can focus on it and you can then really become a specialist at it. You know, probably there is no right and wrong, truth be told. Depends on the individual, what stage they're at in their life. But for me, it's working out very well indeed. A bit of care work and a bit of gardening work. So I just wanted to find somewhere to set up this camera so I don't make you feel too seasick. So what I actually did, I think it was November time, something like that, late October, can't remember the exact date. I entered a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. So a year or so, just maybe just a bit less after the inguinal hernia repair, entered the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament in Basildon here in Essex. Really enjoyed it and did better than expected actually. So I was quite surprised that you know, I didn't get, you know, completely destroyed in the tournament, you know, because I haven't done any competitive sport, to be honest, since about 2001 Sports Day, so some time now. And the jiu-jitsu, it's really given me a sort of another thing to focus on, as well as just you know, the usual grinds, if you want to call it that, in life, which we all have. It's been very good. It's you know, got me a little circle of friends that I train with, and we sort of all help each other. And doing the tournament, I met some nice people up there as well, which is a nice thing to do. It's a nice little community, really, a bit like gardening. You know, when you meet someone who's into that, you can talk to them about it. It's just nice to sort of enrich your life, if you understand what I mean, with different things. So back at Home Gardens, and yeah, looking around here. So I have got plenty to do. So due to how this year's panned out, which I've explained earlier in the video, me, you know, recovering initially in the earlier part of the year, and me sort of putting more energy towards other things, of course, and me just having a little bit of a break, it didn't lead to, you know, a year in the garden here, which could have potentially been better, really, had I invested more time, effort, energy, etc. into it. But that's fine. You know, I've been at this gardening thing quite a long time now. I intend to continue with it for much longer, and overall the year wasn't too bad, and it was quite a challenging gardening year, it seemed anyway. It seemed to take a long time for the spring to come, for the summer to come, and when it came, it didn't last long. I think a lot of people out there found that. Did you find that? Where are you? What part of the country? What part of the world, etc., etc.? What USDA zone are you in? But yeah, it certainly did seem a strange year, but I did get some good harvests this year. I remember correctly that what was very good this year, you know what, nothing really strikes my mind. Apples, that was it. Fantastic crop of apples, fantastic crop here of grapes, very good. They seem to do very well here year after year, the grapes, so I really like that. So with regards to plantings, what have I got going on? Let's have a little look. So we'll go into the garden here. I've got my little basketball there that sometimes I like to just bounce around, you know, why not? Hey, a bit of variety, as they say. So, right, so garlic and onions, I forget which is which, but you can see I've got them planted here. So they've done quite well, actually. I planted them a little bit, when did I plant them? Mid-late November, I think. So there we are, they've germinated. I think these are the garlic and these are the onions, but don't quote me on that. So you can see I've got them covered up here with this mesh. That was to keep the birds off whilst the onions and garlic were establishing, to stop them pulling the bulbs up. So behind me down here, I've got some leaf beet chard, otherwise known as perpetual spinach, so leaf beet chard, and also I have got some beetroot down here. Let's have a closer look at those. So this was a rather strange occurrence. So here we have perpetual spinach, otherwise known as leaf beet chard. It's not spinach, it's a chard, but it's quite often grown as a spinach substitute because some say it tastes similar, and it's said to be sort of easier to grow in general, which for a variety of reasons I would probably say it is. But there we are. So again, I planted this quite early in the year, but it just did not really do much, and then it did finally grow towards the end of the year, and then the colder weather came. So once again, very strange. So here I have a variety of beetroot called Rote Kugel 2, which once again I planted very early in the year. Did not, well I say very early, relatively early, did not grow really that much. It might just be the variety Rote Kugel 2, I've never grown it before, but didn't really do that much. This one here might be a Boltardy, I can't exactly remember, but yeah, so there is some food here to eat in the garden, but it could have been better. So let's talk about a bit of a success. So you can see here, persimmon, Sharon fruit, lovely thing to grow. And look at that, I've actually had one off of this, and I did feature it on my Instagram, and I showed you me eating it, and it was actually okay. There was a bit of astringency left. These are an astringent variety, means you can sometimes taste the tannin a little bit if they're not quite ripe yet. But yeah, so hanging on here, very ornamental. So here you go, look. Quite nice, and I'm quite looking forward to when these ripen. I might take them inside soon, but they seem to be doing okay here. And I have a little small one there, as you can see. So I look up into the tree. So this is variety Rojo Brillante, and I'm quite looking forward to this tree maturing. We'll see what happens. So here in one of my polytunnels, many of you are very aware of how fond I am of polytunnel growing. Very good for a climate such as the UK, where warm weather cannot really be guaranteed even in the sort of middle of summer, or at least a consistent period of it. So peaches in there, and you may have remembered I've got a nectarine tree in there as well. Well, I think that nectarine tree is unfortunately, I think it's dead actually, so it's a bit of a shame, but I might have to replace that. I've not 100% written it off yet, but I think sadly it is, but there we are, never mind. So we had a little bit of a storm, didn't we? And the storm did come here. It was worse in other parts of the country as well, and a lot of damage was unfortunately caused. So here, it loosened some of the bolts here, so I had to get some new bolts. I've got to tighten them a bit more than this, but overall, relatively unscathed, apart from, you know, it worked some of the bolts loose, the butterfly bolts, fly bolts, whatever you want to call them, and then some of the metal, it poked through the plastic out the sides, but that's really not the end of the world. And this is coming up to its second year now, this cover. Obviously I want to get as long as possible out of this cover, but I'm reckoning that I've got at most another sort of year or so out of this cover, then I'm going to have to replace it. But if I can get another year out of it, that's great. But loads of polytunnel growing will be coming up next year. I really want to get on the melons again. I want to get on the aubergines and of course the chilies, peppers, etc. So really looking forward to that. There's going to be a lot happening in the garden this year. I'm very much looking forward to it, or next year rather. What I want to start doing is some planting, probably around January time, and I'm even considering investing for the first time ever in one of them little sort of heated propagators, so I can really get my earlier, longer season plants growing early, things such as aubergines, eggplants, and maybe some melons as well, because they like a nice long growing season. So yeah, plenty coming up here, and just going to sort of be really thinking, you know, what to do. So you can see here, this is covering the Stella cherry tree there. Once again, I haven't really done anything here, but it doesn't matter because there's plenty more to come. So let me know what you would like to potentially see on this channel here. So many of you have watched me for some time now, and some of you maybe have even been with me since sort of relatively close, or even at the beginning of when I started this channel nearly 10 years ago now. Be very interesting to hear from you in the comment section below. How long have you actually been watching my channel? As it would be nice to sort of touch base with all of my viewers right now. You know, what part of the country are you in? What part of the world are you in? Are you in the UK, another part of the world, etc.? And just let me know, give me some ideas what you'd like to see me do on this channel, because going into my 10th year, I want to try to make sure I give my viewers what they want to see, and of course I want to keep this channel as fresh as possible, because of course 10 years talking about, you know, the same subject, as broad and as interesting as that subject is, you know, 10 years of making videos, I think I've got over 1,000 now. I want to keep it as fresh and as interesting for you people as possible. That's an aim. Anyway, I'm going to sign out now, and the seagulls up there are telling me to sign out now as well. Let me know anything really, and above all, for all of you, Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy New Boxing Day, and all the best. Thanks for your time. See you soon.